On Christmas Eve, my sister stole my engagement ring and announced to the family, he chose me instead. My fiancé stood beside her, smirking. My mother clapped, finally, a real daughter-in-law. Tears burned my eyes, but I took a deep breath and smiled. Enjoy your celebration, I said. But the next morning, when the police showed up at their door, their screams were the best gift I ever received. I, 29 female, was supposed to get engaged this Christmas Eve. I had been dating Daniel, 32 male, for 3 years. He proposed last week at a quiet little restaurant in Makati. Nothing extravagant, but it was sweet and personal. He gave me his grandmother's ring. It had this vintage gold band with a diamond that was small but really elegant. I cried when he gave it to me. We agreed to wait until Christmas Eve to tell my family. We were going to announce it during dinner, surrounded by my whole family at my parents' house in Baguio. It was tradition to all meet there every year for Noche Buena. I thought it would be the perfect moment. I should mention I have a sister, Bianca, 27 female. We were close growing up. She was the pretty one, the favorite, the charming one. I was the serious one. I always had to work twice as hard to get half the attention she got. But still, I loved her. Or at least I thought I did. I never thought she would do this to me. Anyway. A few days before Christmas, Bianca came over to my condo in Manila. She said she was just dropping off gifts. We chatted for a bit, and I showed her the ring. I was excited. Stupid, I know. She gushed over it, said it was beautiful, hugged me, and said she was happy for me. Then she left. The ring was in a little velvet box on my nightstand. I didn't think much of it. I was packing for the trip to Baguio and just left it there. When I got to Baguio the next day and unpacked, I noticed the ring was gone. I tore through everything. My bag, my clothes, my toiletry kit. I even thought maybe I left it behind in Manila. I texted Daniel in a panic, and he just told me not to stress out and to double-check everything. I told myself maybe I'd just misplaced it in the rush. Fast forward to Christmas Eve. We're all dressed up, the food is out, the house is glowing with lights. Everyone's gathered around the long table, my parents, my cousins, aunts, uncles, even my Lola who came all the way from Cebu. There's music playing, and everything feels warm and familiar. I'm sitting there, waiting for Daniel to give me the signal. We had this little plan that I'd tap my glass and say a few words, then he'd stand up and announce it. That was the plan. But before I could say anything, Bianca stands up. She's wearing this tight red dress, full makeup, smiling like she just won the lottery. She raises her glass. I have something to share, she says. Daniel and I are engaged. Dead. Silence. I remember blinking, like I didn't hear her right. Then Daniel stands up next to her. Smiling. And on her finger was the ring. My ring. The room erupts. My mom stands up clapping and yelling, finally. A real daughter-in-law. My Lola is crying and going on about how she always knew Bianca would be the one to marry a good man. My aunts are already planning the wedding in their heads. And I'm sitting there, frozen. I couldn't speak. I couldn't breathe. I think I was in shock. I just sat there with my hands on my lap, fingers twitching. My dad was the only one who looked confused. He kept glancing at me, but he didn't say anything. He's never been good at handling conflict. Then Bianca looks straight at me, tilts her head, and says, he chose me instead. I can't even describe what that moment felt like. It was like a knife straight to the chest, and then another, and another. I stood up slowly. My knees were shaking. I didn't scream. I didn't cry. I just said, enjoy your celebration, and walked out. I stayed in the guest room that night. Didn't eat. Didn't answer calls. Daniel didn't even bother texting me. Neither did she. The next morning, I woke up before everyone else and went into Bianca's room. She left her purse by the dresser. I opened it, and there was the velvet box. Inside it, the ring. I took photos of it. I took screenshots of the texts I'd sent her about the ring. The ones where I was showing it off to her. I even had a photo of it on my hand that I took right after Daniel proposed. Then I drove to the Baguio police station. And that's where I'll stop for now. So, I'm sitting there in the small police station in Baguio, holding my phone with shaking hands while the officer types something slowly into his desktop computer. I show him everything, pictures of the ring on my hand, screenshots of texts with Daniel, even the messages where I told Bianca about the proposal. I didn't want to press charges right away. I didn't even know if I could. I just wanted someone official to acknowledge what had happened. The officer listens quietly and asks me a few questions. Then he calls another officer over. They talk in hushed voices and say someone will go with me to the house to talk to Bianca and Daniel. Now here's where it gets messy. Back at the house, everyone's still hungover from the drama. It's only 9 a.m. My mom is in the kitchen stirring champorado like nothing happened. My dad's out front watering plants. Bianca and Daniel are nowhere to be seen, but I know they're upstairs in the master guest room. The officer knocks. My mom opens the door, sees him, and looks at me like I just spit in the soup. "What's this about?" she snaps. The officer politely says he needs to speak to Bianca. My mom tries to block him, but he steps around her and heads up the stairs. I follow behind quietly, heart thumping. He knocks once on the guest room door. Then twice. Then again, louder. Finally, Daniel opens the door, shirtless, looking like he just rolled out of bed. Bianca is behind him, in the same red dress from last night, mascara smudged. "Can we help you?" she says, all wide-eyed and fake innocent. The officer says, "We have a report of a stolen engagement ring. We'd like to ask you a few questions." Bianca laughs. Actually laughs. "You're serious? She's seriously doing this?" She points at me. Daniel smirks. "It's not stolen. She gave it to us. As a gift. Out of jealousy, maybe. I don't know." I say nothing. I just take out my phone and show the officer more photos, including the one from the restaurant when Daniel proposed. It has the date, the location, everything. I still had the reservation receipt too. Bianca's face starts to change. She knows she's cornered. She suddenly yells, "Fine. She didn't give it to me. But he loves me. He always has. Ask him." Daniel's smirk fades a little. The officer says nothing for a beat. Then he tells them they'll need to come down to the station for more questions. My mom starts yelling downstairs. My dad comes in and just stands there with a blank look. My cousins peek from the hallway. It's a whole show now. As Bianca and Daniel get dressed to go with the officer, my mom turns to me and says, "You're doing all this just because you're jealous? Over a man? You want to destroy your sister?" That was it. I turned to her and said, "No, I'm doing this because you raised her to think she could take anything she wanted without consequences." She slapped me. Right there, in front of everyone. My cheek burned, but I didn't flinch. I just looked at her. And for the first time in my life, I think she actually saw me. Bianca and Daniel went with the officer. Not in handcuffs, yet. Just for questioning. But it was enough. The whispers from the relatives started immediately. My cousin Mariel pulled me aside and said, "I always knew something was off about them. This just confirms it." I stayed quiet. 2 hours later, I got a call from the officer. He asked me to come back to the station. When I arrived, they showed me surveillance footage from a nearby convenience store. Bianca was in it. Clear as day. Holding the ring box and laughing with someone on the phone. The timestamp? It was taken the day after I showed her the ring. Not only that, but it turns out Daniel had been engaged before. To another woman. A woman who filed a police report 2 years ago after he borrowed money from her and disappeared. The case was dropped, but it was all in the records. I felt sick. I realized this wasn't just betrayal. This was something darker. Bianca and Daniel weren't just in love. They were in on it together. And I'd been nothing more than the next stupid girl they fooled. Now I had a choice to make. Press charges for theft, or walk away. But as I sat there, the officer said something that changed everything. "Ma'am, we think your sister and her fiancé might be involved in more than just this." "More?" I asked what he meant. "We're looking into fraud. Your fiancé has a pattern. Your sister might be helping him." That's when it all clicked. Bianca didn't fall in love. She knew. She was part of it from the start. I didn't cry. I didn't scream. I just asked, what do I need to do next? And that's where I'll leave this part. Let me know if you want the next update. So I'm still sitting there in that cramped, slightly too warm room at the station, the air thick with the smell of old paper and cheap air freshener. I'm numb. But not from shock anymore, more like my body gave up trying to process anything. The officer pulls out a folder and flips it open. "We've been looking into a few reports connected to your fiancé, Daniel," he says, and then he points to the screen in front of him. "Or rather, Dante Lopez." "What? His name's not Daniel?" I ask. The officer shakes his head. "He uses several aliases. Daniel Reyes is just one of them. Dante Lopez, Marco Santos, Javier Medina. Same face, same game, different women." He turns the monitor toward me and clicks through photos, security footage, social media screenshots, even an old wedding photo. He was married. To a woman in Davao. She filed for annulment 2 years ago after he disappeared with her jewelry and her car. She thought he was dead. Until she saw him in a Facebook post last year, with my sister. My stomach dropped. So not only had he scammed her, he had been with Bianca that long? 2 years? That meant he was dating me and her at the same time. He had proposed to me, knowing he was already involved with my sister. That engagement wasn't love. It was bait. And I fell for it. I must have looked dazed because the officer stood up, offered me a glass of water, and asked if I wanted to take a break. I said no. He continued. "Here's the other thing, we suspect your sister is part of it. There's a money trail. Apparently, after Bianca started dating Daniel, or Dante, or whatever his name really was, she suddenly had money. Not huge amounts, but enough to raise eyebrows. She told my parents she got a better job. She told me she started investing. She even told one of our cousins she was doing freelance graphic design for foreign clients. It was all lies. Bank transfers came from multiple women. Small amounts. Just enough to fly under the radar. But it added up. They were conning women. Somehow, Bianca would get close to these women, sometimes pretending to be their friend, sometimes posing as his ex, and then he'd sweep in and play the charming savior. The women would fall for him, and then, poof, money gone. I wasn't the first. I probably wasn't the last. And worst of all? They almost got away with it again. When the officer asked me if I wanted to press charges, I said yes. But then he paused and said, "You need to be careful." "Why?" "We have reason to believe your sister knows more than she's saying. She's been deleting messages, accounts, everything. She's not panicking, she's planning." That night, I went back to my parents' house. I packed my bags, quietly. My dad helped me. He didn't say much, but before I left, he handed me an envelope. It was a photo. A blurry old one, from a birthday party years ago. In the background was Bianca. Laughing. In front of her, holding hands with a boy I didn't recognize. "Who's that?" I asked. My dad looked tired. "That's Bianca's first boyfriend. You never met him. He disappeared, too. Something shifted in my chest. I got in my car and drove back to Manila. 2 days later, I got a call from an unknown number. A woman's voice, shaking. Is this Sarah? Yes. I saw your story on that Facebook post. About Daniel. I mean, Dante. I think I know your sister. Pause. She used to be my best friend. Until my boyfriend vanished with her help. Another pause. She told me he cheated on her. But I think they were together. I think they both played me. More voices. More stories. One by one, women began to reach out. They all had different experiences, but one thing was always the same: Daniel, or Dante, or whoever he was, showed up like a prince, and Bianca was never far behind. They worked as a team. Sometimes she was the friend, sometimes the ex, sometimes even the cousin. They'd gain trust. Then drain bank accounts, borrow credit cards, take valuables. And disappear. Now it's a mess. There's an ongoing investigation. Multiple statements being collected. The authorities are starting to piece together the scale of what they've done. I haven't told my mother. I don't care if she clapped and called her a real daughter-in-law. She made her choice. And I've made mine. But there's something that's still bothering me. I got a message from an anonymous account last night. No name, no photo. It said, "You were never supposed to find out." Then it disappeared. I reported it, of course. But something about it felt familiar. Like it wasn't just a warning. It was a threat. And I don't think this is over. A few days after that anonymous message, I got a call from one of the investigators. They'd pulled records, matched aliases, and were ready to bring formal charges. Not just against Daniel, aka Dante, Marco, whatever, but Bianca too. Fraud. Theft. Conspiracy. But here's the twist: Bianca wasn't hiding. She was planning a party. No joke. A fake engagement celebration at some rooftop bar in Quezon City. Invites were already out. She even posted a story holding my ring again, using one of those soft filters with the caption, "Always knew I'd be the one." I was livid. But I was also calm. A weird kind of calm. The kind that happens when you've been burned so badly there's nothing left to destroy. I called the lead investigator and asked if they could hold off just a little longer. I had an idea. The night of the engagement party, I showed up uninvited. I wasn't alone. The team of officers were waiting in an unmarked vehicle nearby. A few of the women who'd been conned by Bianca and Daniel were already inside, posing as friends of a friend. One of them, Angelica, even pretended to toast their love. The rooftop bar was decked out with fairy lights and champagne towers. Bianca was wearing a floor-length sequin dress, grinning like she was starring in her own music video. Daniel stood beside her, wearing a suit at least one size too tight, soaking in the fake applause. Then she saw me. The smile dropped. I walked up slowly, heels clicking against the tiles. I didn't speak right away. I just looked at her. "What are you doing here?" she asked, voice cold. I pulled the mic from the band's singer, politely, just enough to get attention, and said, "I'd like to make a toast." Gasps. Whispers. Even the DJ paused the music. "To the happy couple," I said. "Who met while planning to scam their own family." The room went silent. Angelica stood up. "He told me he loved me while he was stealing my money." Another woman stepped forward. She pretended to be his ex and cried on my couch. Then they both blocked me after I sent them P80,000. One by one, voices rose. Bianca's face paled. Daniel grabbed her arm and whispered something, but she pulled away. "You can't prove anything," she hissed at me. I nodded to the security guard at the door. He opened it. The officers walked in. Bianca ran. Daniel tried to block them, stupid move. He was tackled in seconds. Bianca didn't make it far. She tripped halfway down the stairwell in those glittery heels. An officer grabbed her before she could even stand. The entire party watched in stunned silence. I stayed behind, still holding the mic. "I was going to be your maid of honor," I said out loud, even though she couldn't hear me now. "You told me everything. And still, you stole from me. Lied to me. Humiliated me." People began murmuring. My cousin Jam finally stood up and shouted, "We all saw what you did. Stop pretending like she's the villain." And with that, I left. The days that followed were chaotic. News of the arrest made it to some local blogs. Turns out Daniel had active warrants in at least 2 other cities. Bianca was charged but made bail, thanks to my mother. Yes, my mother. She called me a few days later. She didn't apologize. She said, "Family forgives. You should have handled it quietly." I laughed. Then I blocked her. Bianca tried messaging me once from a new number. "You ruined my life," she wrote. No, I didn't. She did that all by herself. Daniel's still in custody as I write this. Bianca's been avoiding the public eye. The house in Baguio? Sold. My parents moved out quietly, without telling anyone. I haven't spoken to them since. I still see Angelica and the others sometimes. We've started this strange little group, a support circle of sorts. It's not exactly friendship, but it's something real, built on honesty, not manipulation. I don't wear rings anymore. Not because I'm bitter. I just don't need to prove anything with jewelry now. There's no neat ending to a story like this. No happy wrap-up where everything is fixed. But I'm okay with that. I lost a fiancé, a sister, and a mother in 1 week. But I found something better, the truth. It cost me a lot, but it freed me. And if there's one thing I've learned, it's this: blood doesn't make someone family. Honesty does. And I'll never let anyone steal that from me again.